Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have you here for our September Masterclass. I am thrilled to have someone that I look up to, someone that I'm inspired by, and she's become a close friend over the last, I think 5 years that we've known each other. Welcome, Jenny Thomasson, to the Details Masterclass. Yay!
Thanks so much for having me. Go USA.
Yeah, I was so thrilled when I found out that I was going to be working with the Interflora team because you've been the chosen rep for a while now, and it was just such an honor to be able to go over to Manchester to watch you compete in the Interflora World Cup. And so when we were thinking about guests that we should have for this month, we thought, let's bring on Jenny and give her the opportunity to share the experience, because just going and seeing, and I can't even imagine being the competitor, what that entire experience was like. So thank you for coming on, and we're gonna try to get this done in just a short amount of time. But Jenny, tell me all about it. Like what got you to be able to go and represent the United States for the World Cup? Like, how did you get that?
Well, it's all competition based. So there's certain steps that every country takes, and it's up to that country to decide how they pick their chosen representative. But it is through a competition, and that was done at Symposium last year. And when I won that competition, I became the US representative. So I knew from last July. And then in January, all of the competitors that the countries had decided on got the brief of what the title of the competition was and what were the three tasks that we were able to prepare beforehand and the specs of all of those tasks. So knowing from July until January, but not really knowing how to prepare. And then from January until August, then being able to really prepare and practice and come up with concepts and ideas and building and all those things.
Was it like, I can't imagine even the stress of going into that the America's Cup too, because this is only the Interflora World Cup is only a competition that happens every 4 years, or it has up to this point. So you knew that was really like on the line. If you didn't win that, it was probably another 4 years before you could compete. And so I was there at AFD when I saw them announce. And can you just roll through that experience of knowing that you were the US champion?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I knew I wanted to be and I had practiced to be. And then, when you do something and you step away and you're like, that feels right. Kind of like
Mm.
when you're in the shop and you build a display for seasonal and you step back and it came together so quickly and you're like, this is perfect. Or you have a
Yeah.
meeting with a client and you walk away and you're like, I know I've got them. That kind of thing. It was like that a little bit when I was at the competition. I just felt like everything was in alignment. And when I walked away from those certain tasks, I was just like fist pump in the air, like, yes, I got it. I got it.
Yeah.
I just felt it in me. And so I was on cloud nine for quite a bit.
Well, and I love that confidence and that exhilaration, because it is really something really phenomenal just to represent your company or your country like that, and your company too, by all means, because I'm sure this is going to do amazing things for your business. But can you run it back and tell people like how they set the scene for the Interflora World Cup and where it was at?
Sure, yeah. So like I said, we all got the brief in January. And so everything was done through WhatsApp, believe it or not,
Oh
because
yeah.
all the people in every country, that's what they use. They don't really use text or messenger, they use WhatsApp. So the Interfloral headquarters, there was a couple people that were our contact people, and they had all of us contacting through that. They would send just one-way messages and then also through email. So I
Mm.
once I found out the other competitors and that was listed, I went on and I friended all of them on social media. I sent
Okay.
all of
You
them
had
a
to know the
message.
competition.
I sent all of them a message and said, I can't wait to meet you. I can't wait to compete next to you. And I didn't do it as sort of like digging to find out, what they do. It was just more of like we're going to be this family forever.
Yeah.
We're doing this experience together forever. And I just wanted to make that connection. So after that, and then we got our brief, we found out that the whole category for everything was our natural world. And I love natural avant-garde design. If anybody on here follows me, you know that I love that. So when I read that again, I was like, fist bump in the air. Yes.
Mine, yes.
And then we found out the different categories, the table for two, the canopy, and then the bridal piece. And from there, you can imagine as a designer, as an artist, as a creative, when you get those things and you get the specs and you get the guidelines, your mind just starts like rapid fire. And so my
Yeah.
mind was on rapid fire for months until I actually solidified on what I was going to do. And then it was proof of concepts. It was smaller little builds of the design to make sure that it would work and it was stable. Then it was larger builds. Then it was even larger builds. And then ultimately it was having someone make them iron worker and practice them in person, getting the flowers, building it, taking down, building it, taking down, timing myself because everything was timed. And
Yeah.
beginning of August, we had to ship them and my pieces were gone. So I could no longer practice with those pieces. They had to make their way over to Manchester and I had to just on a hope and a prayer that they were going to be okay because if they weren't okay, I had to figure out plan B on site.
Right.
So then they were gone. And that last month, I really started kind of practicing on the surprise tasks they were going to give us and how could I do that in the best way possible. And it started with me doing surprise tasks on my own. But us as designers are really kind to ourselves and
Yeah.
we'll pick the material we always love to work with and we'll pick the color palette we always love to work with. So I find myself going into that pattern. And then it was suggested maybe I should work with other designers. And I did. And I started traveling around and having people come and travel with me. I worked with 4 different top of the line designers, threw ourselves into surprise packages, 3 tasks, timed ourselves, designed next to each other, just so I could get that feeling, that energy, that endurance, the put myself in the atmosphere I was going to be in. And I practiced and I practiced, and it turns out that that was probably one of the best things I did through the whole 8 months before going off to the competition. And then getting there and getting into our workspace and seeing our boxes and unwrapping them and realizing they all made it. And
Yeah.
this is go time.
Hey, that was good technique there. I know Greg and I both commented multiple times that these designers and you especially were like world-class athletes. Like these were the best of the best and all over the world. And the amount of time that I was really inspired by how much prep work that you did because I saw all the traveling. I was like, she is really in this to win it. That's what you do. If you're taking the SAT, you know, you do those practice tests. So to me, I just thought that was really showed your commitment to your craft to get it right. I think we have a couple questions. So I see Jesus Rivera has raised his hand. Would you like to, please, if anybody has any questions, just jump out there with them because yeah, I saw the whole thing and I have different questions than you might have. And also hello from Mama Kim in St. Louis. Before we really dig in, can I just tell you, your mother is the absolutely best and she is the most supportive. She brought thousands of American flags. And if I can tell you that it was like a big international showpiece where, you know, the Spain people were really, really loud. The French were really loud. The UK, you know, but our American team, with the help of your mom, we really, really, I thought we really did a good job cheering for you. Anything you want to say about Kim? Because she did make it on the call.
Hi, Mama, I love you so much. Yeah, she's. Wait a second.
I know.
I cry here. Yeah, she's just the most supportive person in the world, and the fact that she was there and being able to share that experience with me, and she jumped in and she helped out in one part that we really needed the outside help for. And when I made the top 10, just to see her excitement was.
Yeah, because your mom probably, I would imagine, got you into floral design. So no, it was the
No,
other way around.
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Wow, I had no idea on that part. So, well, that is really showing that you teach really well then, because if you can teach your mom something, usually it's the mom's teaching us something, right?
Oh, thank you So sweet. Yeah, that in itself, that story is probably another chat for another time. But
Yeah, no,
yeah,
for
she was very
well,
supportive in me going into it, but I did not come from a floral background. I came into the floral industry out of college and needed a part-time job and fell in love with it. And within a month, I knew that I had found where I'm supposed to be.
yeah. Well, that's amazing. So back to the competition. They give you, I noticed on the first one, so that was the large installation. So if anybody saw Jenny's design, it was just this gorgeous piece. It looked a lot like, I thought, Avatar, like something really earthy and just like so many like roots or something just very bright and botanical. Um, where did you find the inspiration for that piece? And also, you could bring all of your own product. So I noticed that everybody for that installation could they bring in anything that they wanted as far as floral wise? Was it just, were there no rules? I knew that there's like a height restriction and different restrictions that way, but like there were so many different varieties of flowers that everyone's picking, and they have to also process all of their own flowers too, which I thought was unique, because if anybody did anything to damage your product, you get deductions for that if you use it. So you were responsible for that. Can you give any insight into what that was like, or how you went about picking those items?
Yes, so for the canopy, the one that you're referring to,
Mhm.
I wanted to do something that was kind of like the fantasy of what a canopy would be. So I love that you said it reminds you of Avatar, because that means I checked that box. So
So
thank
that was what I saw immediately. I was like, oh my gosh, it looks so much like that. Like I thought it was very, very cool.
Thank you. So I wanted to do something where you would actually kind of walk in and be immersed by that. So the tendrils, some of them were over 8 feet long and they came down and they drug the floor, were hand wrapped tendrils of just raffia. There was no internal support. It was just raffia on raffia. And there's certain techniques that I refined throughout that whole process. And water tubes were hidden within all of those wrappings. And then the bases for that was actually made out of steel to mimic the shape of the raffia tendrils. So you didn't really know where the tendrils started or the bases began. So it could
Mm.
be all blended together. And we didn't really have any guidelines as far as what botanical material we could use. Everyone, like you said, got to choose their own flowers, their own color palettes. Yes, we had to process them. And yes, the care taken for your flowers is a very important thing for this competition. So if there's a nick on a petal, if there's a bruise, if there's a pollen stain, if your stem isn't cut at a diagonal angle out of the bottom, when they lift it out, and they check every one if they want to, if it's not cut the same way every single time, doesn't go all the way down to the bottom of what they call life support or water tube, you get deductions for all of these things. So you have to make sure that you're picking the right material for the right container that you've chosen to make for the competition.
Yeah. And the second piece of the competition was that the surprise element, or was that the dining room, the table for two?
Yes,
I
the
think.
second piece was the first surprise task, and
Okay.
it was a end table that everyone got. It was a rather large end table, maybe more of a credenza, and the interior structure of this end table was octagons put together, so it mimics like a honeycomb. And Manchester, where the competition was held, the bee is a big thing in their city, and they were trying to bring that into the competition, and they wanted us to make a design that would show the importance of being kind to our natural world. And everyone got to use this credenza, this end table, and a bucket of flowers. They were all the same across the board, and we had a list of tools that we could use, and one of them was a handsaw, one was a drill.
You're good with a drill. Jenny is really good with a drill, can I tell you?
We got the brief. We went to our booths. We didn't get to see it until we got the brief. We got to turn the brief over, and we had 5 minutes to read the brief and think about what we were going to do. And I just kept thinking, as I do with any of my competition pieces when it's a surprise, I think two things. One, do something no one else is going to do. And second, make it clean. And so I just kept thinking about that for those 5 minutes. What is somebody not going to do? And I thought, somebody's probably going to turn it upside down. So that's not interesting enough. Somebody's probably going to use these little cubbies that has been made from the octagons. So that's not going to be interesting enough. Not to say that those aren't interesting ideas, but I wanted to stand apart from what everyone else would do. So I thought, okay, what if I put it on its side? And I thought, okay, that's a little bit more interesting, but the bottom, it was a little bit longer than the actual frame. So I had to take the bottom off. So I needed my drill. Okay, so then it's on its side with just the octagon. So, but how can I take that even more? Oh, I'll remove a couple octagons, which makes the whole thing seem diagonal. And then I'll play on those diagonal lines. I'll get my drill out, I'll drill holes, I'll have everything shoot off in that same direction to just be really clean, impactful, but unique.
Yeah. I thought the most stressful part was the hosts when they were coming around and they were like, I think there was Hannah Rose Jackson and Per Benjamin, who was a former World Cup champion, like from a couple seasons before. They were great hosts, but they would walk around with a video camera and be like right up in your face, in every contestant's face, just talking about the design and really breaking down what you were doing. What was that experience like? Because it was like a reality show. And in fact, I think it would be a really great reality show if there was something like this at this scale. But yeah, and you can't talk back to them at all. Like
No,
you're
you get deductions. If you talk back, it's in our rules. If we talk back to them, or if we talk to the audience, the
yeah.
technical committee can deduct points from you as a competitor. So no, we cannot talk back to them. You just listen, and we have the option. We can put earbuds in if we want, but there's no way I would do that, because if something was said by a judge or a committee that we needed to know right then and there, if I have something in where I can't hear, then that's shame on me. I shouldn't have put those in. So I don't wear them. So that is maybe something someone could say that's not good, but I listen to kind of what the judges are saying or the commentators are saying, but I'm not really taking it to heart. Same as the audience. I'm not really taking it to heart. I just need to stay in my own mind and stay really focused and centered on what I'm there to do.
Well, it's, everybody has an opinion, and I'm walking around here with Florida Man, and we're like walking, over to Sweden or Italy, and we're like, I don't know, we like Jenny's better. And just hearing like the thousands of people that were walking around, and they all have their favorites. So I feel like that as an artist is just, I'm one of these people who likes to design and really hone in, and I don't want to show anybody what I've come up with until I'm done. So I feel like it's a lot like that. You're completely exposed out there. And I did find it was rather interesting that there were some designers that completely turned their back to the audience and almost stood in front of their piece in that same way, almost like they were sheltering it so that other people couldn't see. But you were just in your own zone, and I think that confidence really came off. So it was nice to watch.
Yeah, I really loved the surprise tasks, to be honest with you. Those were my favorite part of the whole competition,
Yeah.
because it really forces you as a floral designer to bring out of yourself and your floral toolbox, right?
Mm.
What you've learned in your craft. It forces you to think on your feet. It forces you to be really committed to the idea and know you've got the skills to execute that idea. So it could throw a lot of people for a loop, but I found that it was exhilarating. And we got our score sheets back afterwards, and I can see everybody's scores. I can see mine too in great detail, all the categories that they scored on, plus all of the guidelines. And my surprise pieces, I actually scored the highest. So
Oh, congratulations. Yeah, I really want to like break down that score sheet with you. Or if you can send me a copy, I would be really interested to see that. I love analytics. So that's like right up my alley. I'm really into math. Tell me about your ring bouquet that you designed, which I think was the most elegant and one of my favorite pieces that you created from the competition. I just thought it was just so unique, and I've never seen anything like that before. And of course, we'll include pictures with this masterclass.
great. Yeah, perfect. So that was actually one that I didn't ship over because it was small enough that I could put it into a container, into a carry-on, and that flew over with me. So I really got to work on that. The idea and the concept for the wedding bouquet section that it was for a wedding above the clouds to be carried by the arm, wrist, or hand. And immediately I didn't want to make anything. It's like a surprise package again, right? Do something unexpected and make it really clean. And so I thought, nobody's going to do a ring. And
Yeah.
then the question like, but is that really, but yes, it is, because it's carried by the hand. It's on the hand. That will work.
Yeah.
So I started sketching. I made the very, very first small proof of concept here. I had some aluminum wire. I found a piece of cardboard that I cut into an oval and drinking straws that I cut into tubes and glue and spray paint. I made a small little replica of what it would be like and said, does this work? Can this idea kind of have life to it? Is this a good concept? And from that, I drew it again. And then it went to a artist who had it 3D printed for me based on the specs that I had given him. And I was glad that I asked him for two, because they both of the bottom portions of the ring, because it was the plastic from the 3D printer, when I was putting it on and off of the hand that I had as the model, the bottom plastic portions broke.
Oh,
If I would not have done that and done my proof of concept and really started building and playing here, I would have gotten there and my ring would have fallen apart. So that was a perfect example of doing proof of concept. So from there, I thought, okay, the 3D is not going to be my answer. Then what else can I do to use this concept? But I need a different material. And then I came up with the idea of using the epoxy and using the light to cure the epoxy. And now I could make this into any shape that I wanted, keeping the same concept in mind, and found long tube beads made to use maybe for bracelets or necklaces or something, and was able to put that into the epoxy and cure that. And I could really create the shape. So I have some really great detail shots of this on my Instagram, Jenny T Floristry, that has the step-by-step of how that whole concept to fruition came. And then it was long wires covered in embroidery floss. So you can imagine, I like
yeah.
detail. So all of that went in there. And then just that by itself created this really beautiful, light, airy feel. And then stiefel grass was added, a little bit of the epoxy cured on the stiefel grass, which made it look like condensation, like you were up in a cloud, like little water droplets that just kind of stayed there. And then the actual application of the floral itself was kind of like a surprise package, because it was a kind and I had never built it all the way to completion before. So at the competition with the floral material that I used, that was the first and last time it was ever completely made.
And are you using those tweezers for more projects? Because you had the longest pair of tweezers I've seen, but I had never seen anybody create a floral design using that tool like that. But you kind of needed it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I needed it because it was all about covering the backside of the mechanics on those little wires, again, that were covered in that embroidery floss. If I'm taking a small mini phalaenopsis and I'm putting a little bit of cold adhesive on the back of that and putting that on that tiny little wire from the back, because the judges they'll pick it up, they'll look at it, they'll investigate it. This is the top of the top of the top of the line. So you have to be so precise. So I was using those tweezers with just the little blossom from the pussy willow and a little bit of cold adhesive, and coming on the back side of that wire and like kissing those two pieces together. So you couldn't see where the glue started, the pussy willow, or the orchid began. It all just became 100% completely fused together. But so I needed those tweezers. I really thought I was only going to use those tweezers for like the first 20 minutes. I
Yeah.
thought, okay, I'll use them on a couple of the big things and then I'll just start going to town. But as it turned out, they never left my hand the
Yeah.
whole time. I needed them.
Did you have a backup pair of tweezers?
Yes,
Just
I do.
I know there's a backup to her backup, and that was kind of a silly question. Well, I think that you're going to start a new trend, and I see a few people on here that I know um, could probably sell this design, because how elegant and simple was that? And I just thought it was just so pretty, and that's what a bride wants, is to feel pretty on her wedding day. And like, I think that the big bouquets, kind of like the last surprise package, something from the field or what it was. But I think that this concept, really, you nailed it as far as like new upcoming things. So
Thank
bravo.
you.
I know, I was like, yay! Everywhere.
And they said, you really need to patent that. And I was like, I'm not going to patent it because I've got a big bouquet workshop tour that's coming up at the beginning of the year. And that's now a huge section of the bouquet workshop tour, because I'm evolving it from the ring into much larger, broader concepts for the wedding world. So it could be new and fresh and innovative.
Yeah. And the table for two, the wave design. So these pieces were all set out. I feel like everybody got to put out their concepts or where they were going to take their like floral journey story as it evolves. You know, you did that first large canopy piece and then the surprise piece. And then there's this wave, and everybody saw that it was a table for two. Most people had place settings down, but just the structure and the base. So you could prepare that early, and that could be as completed, or could you not go back and touch the base of what you'd brought to that again? Could you fix anything on it if it was off?
If something fell off or something broke, yeah, you could absolutely fix it. The idea and the whole concept behind getting it done early is because you only have so much time.
Yeah.
So like the base of what I made for the table for two, it took me over 80 hours to cut apart all of that manzanita and then wrapped the whole entire frame in white floral tape and then added manzanita pieces from smaller to larger and wrapped that all with white floral tape. So it all was seamlessly put together. And then after that was done, all of my water tubes were actually added onto that frame before I shipped it over, because we had 2 days of prep, but you only have from this time to this time, and then you have to take a break, and you only have from this time to this time. So if you know how long your pieces are going to take, there's no way that you could build those things entirely there on site. At least not, I couldn't do it with mine.
Yeah, I think that piece was what I would have been the most afraid of traveling, because it just looked like very fragile. And but
it
yeah.
looked fragile, but if you know your materials, for those of you that are on here, and I'm sure you do too, you've used manzanita before.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty sturdy.
it is so sturdy. You could impale something, I'm sure. So using that as my base structure, and that in itself was supporting those water tubes internally. And then that was wrapped in bubble wrap, and then that was secured on a pallet, and that was wrapped in a box. And that, you know, so there were precautions taken, knowing my material, and fingers crossed that it was going to arrive safely. And do you know that not one water tube broke?
That's amazing. I mean, it goes to show of how well cared for you took in all this planning. Can you tell us, our viewers, about the entrance, like every time you guys like walked into the Manchester Central, as representative of the United States, like that was, I just felt so emotional, and I can't imagine what you would feel as the rep, but every time, in all these countries, cheering for their home team, that was a really special thing for them to do. And I guess I'd never been to a World Cup, but if you get the opportunity to go, I would say go and be there for all the entrances. Can you explain what that experience was like?
Yeah, it was emotional. It absolutely was. There was the same song that they played the whole time, and it kind of had like a Disneyland feel, like when you go around the park and they just keep this song on loop. So we knew what that song was. And they didn't play your country's anthem or anything, but that song kind of became our anthem. Like, you started to feel like the butterflies in your stomach, and you'd stand in line. And at first, the first couple times we stood in line, we hadn't really conversed that much with our fellow competitors. And it was like, okay, we're all here and we're all nervous together. And then towards the end, the last couple of times we stood in line, we're sequestered back in a room. We're back there, we're taking pictures, we're laughing. I mean, it really just became like a great moment for all of us. And we're cheering for each other as they're walking up. I will say that group of competitors and their assistants at this competition, every single person, and I'm not just saying this because I wouldn't say it, but I'm honest, every single person wanted everyone to do amazing. We
Yeah.
wanted everyone to win. We were all rooting each other on, and we were congratulating each other in the most beautiful human way. And it was through flowers. And that in itself just got me choked up. It was
Yeah.
an amazing experience.
Well, and it's just kind of, it's all perceptive, and everybody came with like a different concept that they spent, 80, 100, 1,000 hours like conceptualizing. So it was really, really neat to see how it came together, because there were no two pieces that were alike. We worked with the producers of the Interflora event, and they actually use details. I know you use it as well in your business, but it was really crazy to see that spectacle come together, and to see how many flowers that they used on that show, because they made it like such an amazing like spectacle, floral spectacle for their entire city. So they wanted to bring in a ton of people into Manchester, and I think they accomplished it really well. Would you mind like sharing some of the neat architecture, or did you even get a chance to see everything that was in that Manchester Central, because you were kind of quarantined off to your townhouse there that they made that was like the USA? Did you get a chance to walk around and see everything that they did there?
I actually purposely didn't. So
Oh,
I was lucky enough that I was on the end of one of the aisles, and every single time we were allowed to go to and from our booth, I walked behind all of the booths because
okay.
I didn't want to be skewed by anybody else's design or anybody else's color palette or the layout of their booth or what they had done for the floor or the walls. I didn't want that to get into my psyche, because if
Mm,
you see something that someone else is doing, we're all human and we think maybe I should do that too. Well, they're
mm,
doing that and it enters, and I thought I don't want to do that. So I kept behind every single time until the top 10 were announced. And then that next morning, then I walked around for the first time and saw what Interflora has done. And then also I saw what the other competitors have done. And it was great that morning because we were all allowed into the space, all the competitors and the assistants, an hour before we were supposed to really be there for anything. And I think they meant to do that, but it wasn't really said like go walk around at each other's booths. But it was like we had free time. So of course we were going to do that. And we got to go into our fellow competitors' booths and like get on the ground and really kind of go through and take some really beautiful pictures and talk to each other. That was a great experience for sure.
Did you have any favorites amongst the other competitors after you saw their designs and said, oh, that was really clever? And I can see why that scored high, or I'm surprised this didn't score higher. Were there any like standouts to you that stood out?
I think there was some layouts of the booth that I really did enjoy, although it said in our competition packet that the booths really it doesn't do anything for the judging.
Mm,
But I think that subconsciously, how can you not walk into a booth that is entirely presented in a way and not go, this feels good as
yeah.
an evaluator? There was one competitor that had a hanging bouquet for the wedding section, and on the ground, they had a mirror, and
Oh,
the mirror reflected the underneath of the bouquet. And I thought, put that in my toolbox. That's an amazing idea. And when I was thinking about color palettes for my booth, I was thinking daytime or nighttime, and the nocturnal played a pretty good role in my color palette decision for a bit. And then I went to the bright side, but there was one competitor that did a complete nocturnal. And I don't know if that was their ambition. I'd never asked them that, but from my perception, it was a nighttime color palette. And I
mm,
really enjoyed that very, very much. And then there was a final competitor that had a stand that came off of the ground that had poles, like metal poles, that obviously had a steel base at the bottom because that's what held the massive structure, but you couldn't see the steel base. They had carpet on the floor and they knew where they were going to put this piece, and they put holes in that carpet that base went through. So it sat underneath the carpet and it looked like magic. And I
yeah.
thought, keep that one too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really something interesting. I did see one competitor whose structure started falling over. I don't know if you heard about that at all, but
No.
they had to he had to call over people to help him set it up and tie it up. And it was really crazy because he knew he was going to get points deduction, but if he didn't ask for help, then it would have just tumbled over. So it was just really kind of you felt the stress of the entire situation, because here people have spent all this time prepping, and then balance gets a little off, and there it goes. But yeah, I was happy to see you made the top 10. We did have a lot of champagne that night, so I I felt like I was celebrating right there with you. Like it felt like just so euphoric, and it was just I felt so happy to watch you up there like showing your talents and things. And I know Greg agrees with me, and then everybody, we had like a crowd of the USA people all there, so it was really nice to see. When you think back on it, what are going to be some of your fondest memories of the experience?
I think the table, the honeycomb table, that's
Mm,
really fun memory for sure. Being on stage for the top 10 and creating the spiral hand-tied bouquet live in front of everyone, all the audience that was out there. That is a memory to be had for sure. And then having all of my people over there, all of my friends and colleagues and my mom and fiance, and just being able to share that experience with everyone. It's really kind of once in a lifetime.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, that's all I could think about the entire time was like, this is a huge moment. They did announce they're going to do another one in 2 years. Um, and I would imagine it would be someone different, but are you eligible to compete if
The one in 2 years is not held by Interfloral. So
okay,
Interfloral only does it every 4 to 6 years, depending. And
okay.
it's not yet announced if Interfloral is going to do another one, from what I've
Mm,
heard. The one in 2 years is going to be put on by Floret, and the US
okay.
at this point does not have anybody for Floret to represent, meaning we don't
Mm.
even have kind of a Floret ambassador. So I think that there's a lot of steps that have to be taken by some sort of organization or something to make sure that that does happen. But if it does happen and we get the chance to put an American competitor out there, I am in the front of the line.
Well, when I learned how much it costs just to be a competitor, I think some people had like a $25,000 entrance fee. So you think about that times 20 competitors. I mean, it is. Did you have sponsorship with this? You're also like I know that you have a ton of people and also a lot of products that you represent. Do you want to give any shout outs to them right now?
Sure. I had a main sponsor of FTD, and then also Smithers Oasis North America. Hilverda did all of my florals, and then Meraki for a sponsor as well.
Yeah, and I would love if you guys don't have any of Jenny's Meraki shears, you have to get some. And in fact, I wanna I'm gonna purchase a bundle of them for you for the wedding MBA because we want to include some of these in our giveaway gift this year if you're going to the wedding MBA. But I will include a link. They are the sharpest, most gorgeous shears. Everybody in your studio, they need to have them. Jenny invented them and sells them as a product. So you have several books you've written. How can people find more things out about you and also, you know, contribute to like buying some of your wonderful products and tools that you have to make their lives easier?
Sure, yeah. So it's MerakiFloralTools.com. And then the books are, they're able to be viewed and purchased on my website, which is JennyTFloristry.com. And then if you just want to follow along on the journey and gain some inspiration, on Instagram and Facebook, I do weekly posts. Most of the time, it's 3 times a week. I do stories. I try to stay really active in that regard. So my Facebook is Jenny Thomasson, and then my Instagram is jennyt.floristry, and that links over to my website as well. And then if you guys are interested in the bouquet workshop that's coming up January, February, and March of this next year, there is going to be 4 locations right now, 4 guest designers, all about sustainable wedding floristry and avant-garde design for body flowers. Feel free, check out my website. You can sign up there, or you can send me a message too on Instagram or even Facebook or whatever. I'd love to see
Yeah,
you.
thank you. I feel like we'll include all those links in this wrap up too. I one other thing I wanted to comment on is you had your social media um director, I guess, or she handles all of your media. Please give me some information and insight how you are going to unpack all the hours of footage and what is the timeline, like how are we approaching this project, because that's kind of that's very much interesting to me because it took me I think a week and a half or 2 weeks to just go through the pictures before we even pulled this out. Like there's so much she shot. So what is that looking like for Jenny T Floristry?
Well, there's a larger project in mind for all of that that I would love to share with you. Not to be cryptic about it or anything, it's just it hasn't been announced yet. So there is a reason
This is our Taylor Swift moment here, Jenny. This is her unpacking the Easter eggs about what she's going to do here. No, you're very much like that. It's a mastermind. Go ahead.
For the whole competition, I really wanted to share as much as I could. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to put myself in this. I'm going to commit so much of my time to this, so much of my life of this. I need to really make sure that I'm sharing with my audience what all of this is. And so I thought, do I have her come? She's my social media manager. She's independent. I hire her on a monthly basis, and we talk about concepts. And we just got done talking about fourth quarter and what we're going to do. But I thought, should I have her come and capture all of this on the back end? And then I thought to myself one day, I thought, am I going to regret it if I don't? And my answer was yes. And I thought, she's coming because I need to do it. I need to show this. And I really wouldn't have had time to do all of this editing and share it with my audience. So she was there every single day. She did the editing for all of the things that we were shooting. And then just when we needed to, we actually had it on our timeline for the days, the whole time we were there. At this time, we're going to do this. At this time, at the end of the night, we're going to come back, get back together and do some voiceovers. We're going to talk about who we want to share it with. I mean, she was always there just doing it. And we were collaborating on what we were going to share with the audience. And I had so many people get back to me. I'm still having people get back to me that say, how great was that? We felt like we were right there with you. Every day I was tuning in. I wanted to see what was going on. So building on that excitement, yes, there's a bigger idea in play here for the World Cup.
We have a question, I think, from Samantha Belonga.
Hi.
Hi. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And good to see you again, Jenny. We got to meet at the Great Lakes Floral in March.
Good to see you.
So I actually wanted to come on because of your bouquet workshop too. I followed everything on Instagram, and I guess it's just a little anecdote, not a question. But I was walking with my mom and I'm like, hey, this girl that competed for the US, she's teaching a class in Orlando, but it's when I'm from Michigan. I'm like, it's when we're on vacation in Orlando. And she's like, so you're going to leave and go to that? I'm like, well, then I could write some off as a business expense, right?
Absolutely.
Leave my family at the hotel.
I got a pool.
Yeah. Anywho, thanks for sharing the whole experience on Instagram. That was so cool to watch, and even all this behind the scenes stuff today. Thanks for hosting this, Corrine.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you guys, came. And I just want to put so much spotlight on Jenny because it was such a remarkable experience. And I think that she did such a good job representing everybody. And you just made us all so proud. And, it was like, little Miss Sunshine popping in there every morning. Like she's so bouncy and happy. And, you don't ever really get to see anybody have that much joy, right? And so you can see that you just exuded that, and just your mom was there too. And it was lovely to be there. I was so honored that I was able to go. So thank you guys all for being good detailers so that I can go as well and have these experiences, and then hopefully bring back and add more light and creativity into people's life, because you definitely gave a lot back to us. So thank you.
It's very sweet. Thank you, Vanessa, for saying that too. And I hope you could take a little mini vacay from your vacay. I'd love to have you there.
Yeah. Anything you want to add, Kim? I see you there. This is mom. This is Jenny's mom. No, she's shy. Oh, okay. Well, anytime I see a flag doing this, I have the best video of her standing outside, first in line too. There were thousands of people, and every day Kim was there first in line, rushing to get in there. So it was really great. And she had so much American swag that she was giving out to all the Americans that were there. So it was fun. It was good. It was good to represent your country. Yeah. Well, their phone just fell over. I love it. Well, you guys, thank you. And Maureen Christmas, she says, I loved watching all of Jenny's social media. It felt like a backstage pass. Great job and congratulations. Your designs were just fabulous. So thank you for that, Maureen.
Thank you, Maureen. That's so sweet of you. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you.
maybe I have one thing to say, other than I'm, of course, a super proud mama, of course. But I agree with you about the joy. I mean, Jennifer was like bounding everywhere.
Funny.
It was so wonderful just to see pure joy in what she was doing. But Jenny, it might be a great idea to talk about Peru, and what happened and how everybody kind of rallied around her.
Yeah, I guess there were two kind of backstage things that nobody knew about. I could talk about that. That may be interesting. We were supposed to get a different background. This isn't the Peru story, but this is everyone's story. But then I'll do Peru. We were supposed to get a different background for our booths. It was supposed to be a really rigid, hard surface, and we had the ability to cover it. We could do wallpaper, we could do paint, we could do whatever. And then when we got there, the background of our booths were a vinyl, and they were very pliable. And so people that had planned for months and months and shipped over things that were going to be a floor or a wall no longer worked. And so the technical committee was trying to figure out what they were going to allow to happen. And so they came back the next morning and they said, we will allow you to get fabric, have fabric brought in, because normally you can't bring anything else in, but because of this, we didn't know. You can bring fabric in if you want to cover the back, or if you want to buy paper and you can cover the back. We'll allow that to happen. You just have to let us know that it's coming so we can check it and make sure that everything is, up to its par. And so I thought about it for a little bit, and then I thought, yes, we were going to paint it anyway. We had paint, we had rollers, we'd brought everything there, but we couldn't paint the vinyl, and it was going to be black. And that was in my mind. It needed to be black because the colors were so poppy that the vibrancy of the contrast is really what I was looking for. And so when I decided we needed to do black for the fabric, that's when Mom was there and she said, what can I do? And I'm texting her, we need this, we need this. And then how long is this? Okay, this wall is this long, and this is this height, and this is this height. And then we need this, and then we need something to attach it. And we were like working through everything with text, and it's meters, not inches. So there's another twist in the whole thing. But we got it to work out, and Mom went to the fabric store and she came in with this huge roll of fabric and all the things. And I said, if I can get it up and I can get it secured in 2 hours tomorrow morning, I'll keep it up. If it takes me longer than that, then it's eating into my prep time and I have to just remove it and just let it be a white wall. And we got it done in 2 hours and 10 minutes. So that was exciting. And then for Peru, so sweet, bless her heart, none of her flowers came.
No.
None of her flowers came. And so she has her structure because she could ship it, right? So she's got her structure pieces, but none of her flowers came. There was a confusion, and they weren't coming until the following week, the following Monday, which at that point were gone. And so we put out a rally cry for all the competitors. And that's when I say we all wanted everyone to do great. We all wanted everyone to do great. And people were giving her their flowers. And
Wow.
she couldn't pick at that point, but she could at least still compete. And there's a lot of designers that would probably have thrown up their hands and said, you know what, I can't do it. But she didn't. That is a lot to say about her and her integrity and her professionalism, because she said, I'm going to do it. And she was so kind, so appreciative. And you should have seen her booth before the competition really started with the flowers. It was filled. You would have thought that she procured all of it. She had so much material and everyone was just so giving. So that was a great experience.
I cannot remember her final design, but my comment is, why doesn't any of these flowers go together? No, I'm just kidding. That's what, no, just kidding. But she was really lovely. And Greg has a little llama that she was handing out to everybody, these little llama keychains and I think chocolates. So she was really, really nice, sweet lady. I had no idea that happened, Jenny. I had no idea.
Nobody knew. And I mean, that's great too, because nobody really made it a thing. We all just supported and kind of rallied around her. But in regards to the llama, I didn't know this before the competition, but every country brings something for all the competitors. And so I brought everybody actually a pair of Meraki's. Everyone got a pair of Meraki's.
Very generous. That's so awesome. And they probably used them too.
Some of them did, yeah. And then the gentleman from France gave everyone a knife with a wooden handle with a beautiful inscription that said World Cup on it. And then she gave the llama, some people gave food or drinks. Some people gave books. I mean, it was like trick-or-treating for florists.
Yeah, that's so amazing. Yeah, what a special thing.
We
Thank you.
asked judges told of flower problems with Peru. The judges were aware. Yes.
Yeah. But that's kind of out of their hands. Like that comes down to sourcing, right? And could she have gone to like the local wholesaler there? Or
You can before you come in. So we had rules on when our pieces had to be there, when they had to arrive, the big pieces. They have to arrive in this time frame because they have to check and make sure they're there. And then the day we arrived for the first day of prep to make sure that our boxes were there, we could bring in sundries or botanical material that we had found at a local greenhouse or a garden shop or whatever that morning. But that was the only time that we could bring anything in, because at that point, that's the first time that you see everyone's things, because you're not in your little cubicles back there. You can look across the prep room and see everyone's structures and the floral and the color palette and the textures and the forms and all of that. So if they don't cut it off at that point, then that night you could go out and buy things that were very similar to your competitor and come back in with all of that. So after the first day, you're not allowed to bring anything else in.
see. Wow, interesting. Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Good questions.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I have so many questions, but they are not going to make it in. I could talk to you for the next hour about how you got started and how, everything, how you came up with the idea for Meraki, but people are just going to have to attend your bouquet class and you can tell them then, right? So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Jenny, for sharing all the behind the scenes. And we loved watching and supporting you. And if there's anything we can do to bring more joy into your life so that you can bounce around and spread flowers everywhere, then we're all about it, because you're just awesome. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who tuned in right now for the live, and everyone else who's going to tune back in and watch the recording. So grateful that you're part of this journey with us. And thank you, Corrine, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. All right, guys, make it a great month. Yay. Thank you.